ready, can we start? Yeah.
Can you hear? Teruvan Sarana.
Yes, Bante, we will start then.
Yeah, let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Today is the 17th of January, 2026. We are gathered here today for the 215th session of Mindfulness for Beginners in English, conducted by Nisaranavanaya. We would like to welcome Venerable Homagama Dhammakusala for this session, and everyone who's joining us via Zoom, and anyone who may be watching our live stream session via YouTube as well. Our program, as usual, will commence with an in-session practice of mindfulness. This will be followed by today's topic. We are still keeping with the same topic, which is the digital detox. And once the end of the talk, we will then have time for any reports we have received, and then we will move on to questions if we have time. So to begin today's session, I now invite Venerable Homagama Dhammakusala for to start the in-session practice of mindfulness.
Thanks, Sonali. Hello, everyone. Let's start today's session with a mindful walking practice. For this, you have to select some space where you can walk comfortably, probably like 10-15 steps, that type of a space. Then, while walking, you try to keep your attention with the steps. Remember the feet while walking. Notice the sensations, feel which parts of your feet is touching the ground, texture, temperature of the ground. That way you try to feel the feet while walking. And time to time you forget the feet, you get carried away with various thoughts surrounding sights, sounds, these things. But that's okay. You can catch it. And once again, you can return your attention to the feet. That way, repetitively, we get carried away with various objects, but we realize it and we return our attention to the feet. That's what we are going to do. So let's take around 15 minutes to do a walk-in session today. Okay, everyone. That's our time to do a walk-in session today. This is just to give you an idea so you can practice on your own. And with that, Sonali, you can take over.
Thank you, Bante. So next on the agenda, we have the talk on today's topic. The talk this week is the continuation that we, from the last week, we started the topic of a digital detox. Last week, we were introduced to this by Venerable Rohini, and we will continue the topic. And now I invite Bante again to start on the talk on this topic.
Thanks, Sonali. Hello, everyone. So this is an interesting topic, especially in this new age. This is a topic that we have to discuss because most of the time, this technology, we don't know how to use it properly. We have all these devices which are more or less facilitated with various options and which are smart, probably supported by AI. So it's a good time to be more aware about these devices and how to use them properly. Before we get into the discussion that's given for today, first we have to identify a certain brain chemical, dopamine. That is a brain chemical that's associated with wanting. It is triggered with new rewards. When you experience something new, your brain is flooded with dopamine. When you go through some exciting new event, when your brain is flooded with dopamine. For example, a little child tasting his or her first ice cream. So when that happens, you can see the light in the child's eyes. Suddenly, after tasting this for the very first time, the whole face is lit. So that's the dopamine flood. It's a new experience, and when such new experiences happen, the brain is flooded with this happy chemical. But the problem is that when you revisit that experience repetitively, that flooding gets reduced. When you eat ice cream all the time, it's no longer interesting. It's no longer feeling heavenly, right? So this is more like new experiences, new rewards. Whenever you experience something new, that's where this dopamine rush will come, right? So this brain chemical we have to talk about before getting into this today's topic. Now let's think about these devices, your smartphones, tablets, various other ways of browsing social media, right? So these devices, there is a lot of research that has gone into these devices, and these devices are designed to give you short shots of dopamine. It's like checking those phones or checking those social media feeds. Each and every post, each and every video will give you a small dose of dopamine. And it continues. You are not satisfied with that small dose, so you go to the next one. Again, you are given a small dose. You go to the next one. So this way, we keep browsing these devices. Whenever you receive an alert from your phone, this happens. You are trained with that alert notifications. Those notifications, after checking them, give a small dose of dopamine to you. So that training continues. YouTube or other social media, whenever you go through those shorts, videos, different posts, things like that, those little dose of dopamine is given. Right? So this way, it continues, and maybe you take your phone for some other purpose, but without you even knowing, you end up browsing the phone for maybe 1.5 hours. So that happens. Right? So this way, time after time, these devices and social media, they are designed to give us small shots of dopamine, and that becomes really addictive, and it happens for a long time, and that training or getting used to this happens. Earlier I mentioned, whenever the experience is repetitive, it's no longer interesting. It's no longer giving you that dopamine dose. So even with these devices, you get used to it. Little by little, it becomes a habitual part of your life, and it's no longer interesting as it used to be. It's no longer giving that rush. It's no longer giving that pleasure. But still, in a compulsive manner, you keep browsing, you keep spending time trying to get that same dope that you are used to. That happens. So you can see these devices, they make you really addicted to using them, and eventually you will reach a level where nothing satisfies you. That happens. Even certain people who go through these type of addictions, after a few years they reach this level. Even things like porn addictions, initially it satisfies that person, really pleasurable, but gradually, compulsive manner, they keep watching, but they reach a state where nothing satisfies them. And as a result, sometimes even their relationships are broken due to these addictions, right? So this way, whether it is the digital devices or whether it is browsing internet or these social media platforms, initially it gives you that dope. Initially, your brain is flooded with happy chemicals. But gradually, that pleasure is reduced, and eventually you end up in a place where nothing satisfies you. So the thing with this chemical is that you get this satisfaction initially, and it's a small dose that your brain flooded with, and soon after you crash and you go into certain kind of a empty feeling, right? So that's the nature of that chemical. It won't satisfy you for a long period. It takes you through this quick cycle where the brain is flooded with the chemical for a short period. Then soon you crash. When you crash, you are left feeling empty, right? So these devices, these various addictions, eventually you start to feel that in a compulsive manner. You keep checking your phones. In a compulsive manner, you keep browsing social media. In a compulsive manner, you keep watching porn. But you feel it is no longer satisfying. You feel this crash, you feel you are left with certain kind of a emptiness or frustration, right? So that's how these addictions come. And in a way, we can suggest a solution to this similar to food. Let's say when we eat too much, when we have many options, the appetite for food is reduced. This person starts complaining, I don't feel like eating anymore. Sometimes that person goes only after the junk food, which are prepared with chemicals, those type of things, right? So even for the people who are experiencing this problem with food, the best solution for them is to fast. Spend some time without the food. And when they return after the break, their appetite is much better and they can enjoy even little things like vegetables or fruits, right? So that happens due to the fasting. You allow a certain time without consumption, right? So that's why maybe like things like intermittent fasting, it's so popular in nowadays. What is intermittent fasting? You have a certain period for you to consume food, maybe starting from breakfast till noon. You have around 6 hours window for you to eat whatever you want. But after that, you fast for 18 hours. Right? So that way, you probably get 2 meals early in the day. Then that's it for a day. You don't consume any more snacks or various sugary drinks. Right? So that way, when you get used to it, people find it more energetic in their body, and people find that their appetite is improved. Right? So what's the secret? Simply refraining from food for a certain period. For us as monks, we anyway have that rule given to us. So it's a lifestyle with intermittent fasting. And I remember when I started some years back, in the evening times, I used to take certain sweets and things like that, which are allowed, some things like jaggery or sugary drinks. Those things are allowed, and I used to take them. I used to enjoy them. But now I feel those energy boost are not helping. Because if you consume sugar, initially you feel that boost, then you are left with even more hunger. Right? So maybe things like green tea without sugar, things like that, is more pleasing to the body in the afternoons. Right? So that way, you realize, you feel the benefits of this. You see how refraining from certain things can help you. With food, we can really feel it, right? So same type of suggestion is given to this digital devices. That's the title, digital detox. How to do it? You are simply refraining, avoiding for a certain period. And if you do that, then you can clearly see initially you go through a certain struggling part. You feel your compulsive tendencies within. You see how you feel this want to check the devices. But when you pass that initial phase, then you can probably find peace without these devices. People start enjoying the outsides more. People start taking walks. People start spending more time with their families simply because their detoxing helps. You have to pass that initial barrier. Initially, a lot of craving, wanting for these devices come. But if you somehow withstand it patiently, then you realize your brain adjusts itself and you start enjoying the great outdoors more. You start enjoying spending time with your family members. You start enjoying exercising or taking walks. Right? So that way, people can really feel how refraining from these devices, or in other ways, digital detox. You allow this detox to happen. If you keep consuming it, then it won't happen. So you have to refrain from a certain period. And with that, you can feel how it is changing your behavior. Right? So that way we have to make conscious choices. Otherwise, addictions, they anyway happen naturally. Addictions, you don't have to do anything for them to happen. But recovering from an addiction, you have to make conscious choices. Nowadays, some people, instead of smartphones, they start to use dumb phones. What are dumb phones? Basically, the main functions or intended functions of a phone. Right? We used to receive calls, we used to receive text messages. That's all we used to do. Later came all these cameras, social media apps, all these things. Even being in a forest here in Sri Lanka, we can feel how these devices can affect the quality of people's lives. It can really affect the quality of life. For example, these devotees who come to offer food, they have their rotation once a year, right? So they sometimes they prepare for like couple of months for their offering date, and they come the day before. They prepare their food, they adjust, go make all the arrangements, and probably during the arms round time they are waiting for that occasion. But what we see mostly is people are lost in phones trying to record this. They sometimes they even forget to offer the food. they they get lost in the recording, and the main task is forgotten. We hear repetitively the kitchen manager is, probably in a high voice telling them not to record or not to videotape inside the hall. Right? Inside it is not allowed. But anyway, they get lost in the recording and they end up recording inside. Right? So you can see how that simple thing can reduce the quality of people's lives. They used to enjoy that opportunity earlier. They have been waiting for this for a long time. But in the moment of happening, they usually get lost in the process of recording. Otherwise, simply witnessing what is happening, participating in the activity wholeheartedly, that's the best way to do an offering. That's the best way to do it. You do it wholeheartedly. That's the Buddha's teaching. When you offer something, you don't think about other things. Instead, you are supposed to, do it wholeheartedly. It's like simply the mindful practice. If you are distracted, if your mind is thinking about some other things while doing this, then you don't get the proper merits, Buddha says. Right? So what happens to these people is simply they are doing it, but they are not doing it wholeheartedly. Why these devices? They simply want to go post on social media telling that they offered a dana today. Right? That's what happens. And sometimes when you go to those, tours, things like that, the popular shows that artists do, they wait for that occasion, for that tour. Many people go buying tickets. Thousands and thousands of people gathered for the concert, and it's funny to see how majority of the people are trying to record on their phones. They don't enjoy the music, they don't enjoy the songs, they don't enjoy the performance. Instead, they are busy trying to record on their devices, right? So that's what happened. I saw this clip probably like 15, 20 years old, even longer. It was a time without these devices, and the performer was Eminem in late 90s probably, or early 2000s. And the audience is mesmerized by his performance. Nobody is distracted. Everybody is following his performance, singing alone. Right? It's good to see how people used to enjoy their times without these devices. Another video or photograph I saw, the streets, the weekends or Sundays, the streets of the neighborhood in 90s or 2000, early 2000s, right? All the neighborhood kids are in the streets playing, cycling, jumping ropes, doing all those type of things. And nowadays, if you go to see the neighborhood streets on a Sunday, you won't see a kid because they are with their devices, right? So you can see how these things really affect the quality of life. You live, but the quality of life is reduced. You live, but you live like a zombie. This is the real zombie idea. Forget about the zombies who are created with various viruses. According to those movies, that's what happens now. But this is the real zombie epidemic. With these devices, everyone is becoming a zombie. Rarely you can see a person who has situational awareness. Rarely you can see a person who is looking around, talking to somebody who is nearby. Most of the people, they are lost in their phones. Right? So that way, these things are reducing the quality of life, reducing the situational awareness, so that can do real harm to a person. And people, they have to make conscious choices. They have to consciously do it because your brain is wired according to the addiction. So those addictions or those wirings according to addiction, those things are prominent. They work naturally. So that's why you have to make conscious choices. Without making conscious choices, you can't break those addictions. You have to reclaim the brain's wiring. You have to change it consciously. That's why earlier I mentioned dumb phones. You have a phone with basic functions and you can get by. And some people, they intentionally forget the devices at home when they go out with their families. They end up spending more quality time due to that. And some people, they are consciously deactivating their social media accounts. Some people, they try to live off grid. They go into some kind of a countryside and start a life there, right? So these ways you can see people are making conscious choices. You can't sometimes do drastic changes in your lifestyle. That's difficult. But even in your lifestyle, you can make smaller choices which can support your digital detox. And sometimes, let's say, they call this ERP, not the enterprise resource planning, but exposure response prevention. This is really interesting for mindful practice as well. Exposure response prevention. Let's say you go on YouTube. You want to find a specific video for a research. Some topic, you want to research it, right? What happens when you log in? What happens when you open that app? Naturally, certain thumbnails are popped up. Those thumbnails are tailor-made to you, right? So what happens is that forget your research. Instead, you end up checking those videos, watching them, spending time on them. So that's how the addictions work. So this exposure response prevention therapy, or that method, they suggest that you consciously go into that space. Otherwise, you have to go due to your lifestyle. But you consciously don't follow your addiction. You have this urge to open that video, watch that video. You simply feel the urge and don't give in to the addiction. Right? So it's a nice way to be mindful as well. You can feel the urge in your body and mind. They say urge surfing. You feel the urge, you feel how it feels in your body and mind, and you observe it for a short period without giving in. Right? Momentarily, you can practice mindfulness with these occasions. So for a person who frequently has to browse internet for their work or for their education, they can really practice this. They can't get rid of these devices due to their lifestyles. They use them without giving in to the addiction, right? So that's the idea. Exposure response prevention. You have the exposure, but you prevent responding to that addiction. Consciously you feel it, consciously you avoid, right? So that way, sometimes we can't expect or we can't demand drastic changes in our lifestyles. We have to live the life we live. That's okay. But being in this life, these small occasions, you can make these choices consciously. That way it's better, right? You feel the urge to check your phone. You can feel it in your body and mind, but you don't do it. Even without hearing a notification sound, without hearing the phone is ringing, we have this urge to check. Touching the screen and seeing whether there is a new message or a text or something like that. Right? There's this urge. It didn't give any signs for you to check. No notifications, but still you keep checking. Right? So this method you can really use in such occasions. You feel this urge to check the screen, check the phone, but you don't do it. Right? You feel how this urge is there in the body and mind. You consciously prevent you from doing it, right? So that way, these things can give momentary mindful moments. You consciously notice the urge, be mindful, simply feel it, and not give in. That way, you can really practice mindfulness in your daily life and even change your life for the better. Right? So these are the opportunities. You yourself have to do it. Nobody else can come and suggest things for your lifestyle. You have a unique lifestyle, you have a unique job, family matters, education. So you have to decide for yourself. You have to find solutions for yourself. You have to consciously make choices for yourself. So that's the idea. Digital detox is needed. We live in an age where more and more people can benefit from a digital detox. So you can see whether a digital detox can be helpful for your life as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Bante. We all need a reminder for this. Most of us are slave to the phone, the mobile, or the messages, like you said. So it is a good reminder for all of us to remind us that this is an addiction, just like any other addiction that you mentioned, and we need to be aware of it and be mindful of it. Thank you. So let's move on to our reports then. Next, we have I invite Panchani to take over reports and as well as the question time if we have any questions from anyone. So Panchani, with that, would you take over?
Hello, everybody. Avasarai Bante. So I'm sure Sonali has shared the guide for mindful practice on your screens. Sonali, will you be? Yeah, I can see the guide on the screen. So Nisaranawane has prepared 2 YouTube videos to guide you with your practice, mindful sitting and walking. You can allocate small time daily and start practicing mindfulness with walking and sitting. You can continue until 2 hours of each practice in total and write down your practice as a reflection report under titles of mindful sitting, mindful walking, or mindfulness during daily life. You can describe what you felt whilst walking and sitting. For example, if it's mindful walking, you can describe the prominent sensations whilst walking, such as texture of the ground, pressure points on the soles, how the body weight shifted from one leg to the other. If it's sitting practice, you could describe prominent sensations, such as how your bottom was touching the cushion, or your breath at your in and out nostrils, how your abdomen was rising and falling. You can email your reports to beginners@gmail.com or send as a Google form. You can continue practice according to the advice given by Bante to develop your practice. And recordings of the sessions are also available at the link given here on the screen. So with that said, Bante, with your permission, I will move on to the one report that we have received today. It's from an adult, and it says, Venerable Swamin Wahansa, mindful walking. I walked, observing feet as left and right, felt hardness of the floor, thoughts appeared and streamed, heard beautiful singing of birds. This time it was different kinds of birds. Gravel was rough, cold and dry. Mindful sitting. Saturn observed posture as a statue. Belly movements were clear. Thoughts streamed, but remained in posture till the end. Teruvan Saranai Uttam Swamin Wahansa. End of the report, Bante.
Yes, so walking, sitting practice. You have done it, and consistency is the most important thing when it comes to this practice. You know how to do the walking, sitting. In order for the practice to work, you have to do it daily, and consistency matters, right? So if you can do the daily practice, and if you can continue for few months, few years, then you get to really see the benefits of the practice. Most people, their problem is they don't do the enough hours, so they don't gather the enough hours in order for the practice to work. Sometimes they come to a retreat for a day, they take a break 1 more month, then again join for a session, again couple of weeks breaks, then do a sitting session in a day, then again 3 weeks break. That way they do, and it's not gonna help them. You can see even a worldly thing can't benefit you if you do like that. Imagine you are going to a gym one day, then taking a month's break, again eating so many things during that time, again go to the gym another day, then watching some video about building up your body. That way, if you do, it won't help. Right? So you can see many people, they do the practice, but they do in this manner. And at the end of the day, they complain about the practice. They say this practice never works. But they haven't done their part. They haven't accumulated enough hours in order for the practice to work. So that's the main trouble with many people. They don't really do it. Sometimes they are interested, sometimes they have their other matters, and that way they come, but they don't see the real benefit. Right? So the most important quality when it comes to practice is persistence. Somehow you continue with this for few months, few years. You do your daily practice somehow. And if you do that, then you can really see how the practice is benefiting, how it is creating incremental levels of peace within. So your report is good. Continue and see for yourself.
Thank you, Bante, for your valuable guidance. There is another message in the chat. Can I have your permission to read it out, Bante?
Sure.
Teruvan Saranai, Bante. When I presented a report on the experiences of having suicidal thoughts, Bante guided me to keep observing, even though they kept coming back again. Guidance was very helpful for the practice. Followed the given advice. These harmful things started to come to the surface when I was going through family rejections and a breakup. I started living alone. With the guidance, kept accepting the situation. Noticed all things fade away. But there were tiring type feelings when these harmful thoughts fade away. It was noticed that there was an objection to their arising. Gradually, it became apparent that it was out of control, that things faded away because there was a cause or causes behind them. They needed space to fade away. It was noticed that observing without objection or being aware only helps to dissolve them. Gradually, the objection to them went down. It got the ability to be with that fading stuff without objection, even though it felt a bit tiring. With the practice, what is noticed is that the very objection makes space to continue having this fading stuff. While being aware of them, it is noticed that when they arise, they are there. When they are absent, they are not there. Their power was reduced. If not, they became distant. Still, something was popping out as reveal it. Several times, it tried to avoid revealing. So last week, it was revealed. That is, while using a knife and a pair of scissors, there was a fear that any harmful actions would happen via using them. But I had to use all of them and kept facing the fear. The feedback for the report was given as have positive thinking, like what kind of things can be done rather than harming via knife, etc. But it doesn't tend to label things as positive or negative. It knows they all have the same nature, that is fading away. Another thing is that trying to do something is tiring and not possible now. It only urges to be aware of whatever fades away and face them straight. So it didn't agree on the given feedback, and it was confident enough in the practice and its own experience. In feedback, the report was labeled as unpleasant one, and there was no such labeling within. It knows that the practice is accepting both sides of a one that used to keep hidden. It doesn't label anything as pleasant or unpleasant. But it gets tired of going after some fading stuff sometimes. That is accepted. End of the report, Bante.
Yes, so everything is uncertain. That is the nature of things. Whether something is pleasant or whether something is unpleasant, uncertainty is the nature. Anicca is the nature. Right? But what happens is that our minds, they are resisting this nature. When a thought comes, sometimes we grab hold of it and we keep thinking about that thought. Or in other ways, you are trying to suppress a thought, object a thought, and in the process, again, you are energizing the same thought. Whether you grab hold of that thought or whether you object that thought, both ways you are giving more and more energy towards that thought. Right? So thoughts, they have the nature of anicca. Otherwise, uncertain, changing, fading away. That's the nature of these things. But we make them certain, we make them nicca in our minds. By grab holding onto them, you make them nicca, permanent kind of a thing. Otherwise, suppressing these thoughts, you make them permanent. You give more energy towards them. But you have to understand the very nature of all these objects is anicca. It is our minds that make them nicca. Even a foreigner who came probably like few days ago for a short stay, and he was asking Bante, being mindful, is it enough? I'm observing my breath. Sometimes thoughts come. What should I do? I told him, okay, realize that you have gotten carried away and return your attention to the breath. He is asking, is that enough? Shouldn't I do something more with the thought? Shouldn't I label it as anicca before I come to the breath? He was asking. You can label, but the very nature of the thoughts are anicca. Right? Your mind, it's making them into nicca or permanent. Right? So simply accepting that nature, letting them be, they will show their true nature. They will show that they are impermanent. They will show that these things are changing. You have to let them be. When you let them be, they follow their natural path, which is impermanence. Right? So that's the way. That's the idea. Whether you like some thoughts in you, you are giving them more energy. Whether you object some thoughts in you, you are giving them more energy. There's no such thing as good thoughts or bad thoughts. There's no such thing as pleasant thoughts, pleasant feelings, or unpleasant feelings. There are thoughts, there are feelings, but it's our minds that make them into good or bad. It's our minds that make them into pleasant or unpleasant. Right? So you have to understand this nature. One day you can go beyond good and bad. You can go beyond pleasant and unpleasant by simply understanding the true nature of them. Right? So this is the path. This is the path. Right? It's our minds that judge these things. It's our minds that say, this is good, this is bad. It's our minds that say, this is pleasant, this is unpleasant. Right? That's the nature of this mind. We simply be mindful. We simply see sometimes the judgments come. Sometimes there is a judgment following a thought. Initially the thought comes, then a judgment comes. Initially a thought comes, then you say this is good or bad. Initially a feeling comes, and you say this is unpleasant. Right? So that type of observation you can do. You can see how a thought is followed by this judgment, the objection or rejection of these thoughts. You can see how certain feelings are suppressed in our minds, right? So that way, by simply being the observer, you let them be. And when you let them be, what only can happen? Only the impermanence can happen. Because everything, they have the nature of impermanence. Our minds are trying to make them into permanent or nature. Right? So that's the very idea. Keep observing. I'm sure all the people who are gathered here at certain times of their lives, they have felt this way. When you go through family rejections, when you go through breakups, naturally, these type of intrusive thoughts come. They due to those periods, due to those rough patches, these type of thoughts, feelings come. Right? So we know, as mindful practitioners, we know how to deal with them. If you don't know how to deal with them, then you may have to seek professional guidance. Right? Otherwise, if you know this type of a practice, then you know how to deal with them. You can simply be more conscious about these thoughts. The main idea is, with the intrusive thoughts, they get power because your mind is trying to object these thoughts. That's the very source of their power. They are not simply thoughts, they are intrusive thoughts. And that very judgment, that very objection gives them power. Otherwise, many thousand thoughts come. We don't even notice some of them. Right? But certain thoughts, they linger because you have this resistance towards them. So how to get rid of that resistance? You can simply say no resistance, but again, the same resistance, same objection comes. So you can simply observe these chain reactions mindfully. That's all you can do. See how these thoughts are there. See how objection or a suppression kind of a process is triggered with that thought, right? That we say, sometimes we say liking and disliking follows after a certain feeling or a thought. Sometimes disliking follows, right? So that way you have to see the whole chain reaction. Due to object, chain reaction happens in your mind. Certain other thoughts, feelings follow. That way, being the witness, being the mindful observer is the way. Otherwise, people are wishing that they don't suppress these things. But tomorrow, the same process happens. So how can we get rid of it? Simply being the observer. That's all you have to do. It's like, it's a long, tiring process, but that's the path, that's the way. Otherwise, many people, they find various ways of suppressing these things. But naturally, when there is a space, once again, the same patterns return, right? So you have to find a proper solution for it. You have to change this whole circuit. How to change it? Simply being the witness. There are certain rough patches in everyone's life, and you have to somehow accept those changes and mindfully go through them. Make sure that you don't get harmed by these rough patches, right? So that's the idea. That's the mental health factor. Mindfulness is the way for a stronger mental health, stronger resilience in the mind. Those qualities will come simply with the repetitive practice.
Thank you, Venerable Bhante. Such wonderful advice given. Bhante, there is a little part that I may have missed out. I think the person is okay if I don't read it, but I just wanted to ask you whether I should read it.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Okay, there's a little part that I may have missed out that I didn't see in the chat. The person who wrote it is okay for me not to read it. I will follow your guidance.
Still didn't get it.
Okay, I'm just going to read the part that I may have missed out, Bhante. It
Okay, yeah.
says, anyhow, with revealing something shifted, it can't be described. It is like that fear is dissolved into fog. It doesn't mean that harmful stuff fully vanished. Those fade away sometimes. They are powerless than earlier. Sometimes it checks by putting them to the surface how the experience is. There is a relief, and thank you, Bhante, for the guidance given when required. Thanks to all behind the program. End of the report. Sorry, Bhante.
Yes, so that's the missed out part, I guess. And now when it comes to these things like little fears that are uh, driving your life haywire, you can simply, be engaged in some activities. Those things can help. Probably like, as we mentioned earlier in the talk, spending time outdoors, going for a walk, those things, exercising, swimming, right? They help. Otherwise, the thinking mind take over. When we are indoors, we are thinking about certain things. We create probably a small thing into a dragon. It's the mind that at work, right? So we have to make sure that we are engaged in some interesting activity for us. We have to make sure that we are engaged in exercise, right? When you exhaust your body, the mind's power is naturally reduced. If your body is lazy, then the mind gets all the power and start creating all these thought processes, right? So making such choices can also help you continue your mindful practice. But in other ways, simply going out, simply getting engaged in some activity, gardening, those type of things can really help. In my life, I what I feel is simply I have many things on my plate, right? None of them are in a way, in a sense, urgent or important, but all of them are there, right? So what I do is simply keeping myself engaged in these activities. They are not big things, they are not considered as valuable, but still I try to do them wholeheartedly, keeping myself engaged in them. And that way it can really help you, right? Because you get to uh, forget other things for a while when you are engaged in something. When you exhaust your body, you forget the other things for a couple of hours, right? So that way we have to make sure that we keep our attention, or we give our attention to the correct things. Otherwise, giving more attention to the unnecessary things, giving more attention to the wrong things can create dragons in your minds. So think about that as well. You might have to make certain conscious choices that helps you to get out of this repetitive thought cycle. Like these thoughts, these fears, all these things, they are like never ending loops. In programming, they say never ending loops, right? So if you get stuck in such things, then it's hard to escape. Even these things happen to some animals as well. Lines of ants, they start going in circles. They are stuck in that loop. They do it till they are death, right? So we have to make sure that we don't get stuck in these thought cycles, never ending loops. If you break that cycle, put your attention to something else, go outside, take a walk, or exercise, or do some gardening. That way your attention is given to something else, breaking this whole process, right? So those things can also help uh, in addition to your current practice. So try to see what are the options available for you.
Thank you and much merits, Bante. Sonali, is there any time for Q&A or is it time to?
Well, we are nearly coming to an end, but there is something in the general chat if you'd want to read out.
In the general chat, okay, I will have it. Sonali, I can't find it. Do you mind reading it?
Yeah, that's no problem. I'll read it. It said, Teruvan Saranai Bante. I have been doing Anapanasati meditation while walking most of the time to achieve one pointness. It allowed me to start my sitting meditation and continue my meditation. But if I planning to meditate on Dhatu Manasikara meditation to watch the feelings, sensations in the feet and the quality of the ground that allows me to focus on rising and falling phenomena. This practice allows to go deeper into deeper Dhatu Manasikara. please let me know. I explain whether this is a correct meditation practice. I think the person is here today, so if you want to elaborate, you can, but...
Yes, so the explanation is a bit confusing. Seems like there's a confusion, but I will simply tell you the whole path, right? The whole path of Buddha in this particular teaching, discourse. He is using a single word to explain the whole path. That single word is Kaya Gata Sati. Just a single word that becomes the whole path. Everything else, all the other faculties will be developed when you do this practice. Right? So that's the very idea. We can simply put the whole path into a single word. Kaya Gata Sati. Mindfulness according to the body, let's say. Right? Mindfulness according to the body. So let's say in the walking, you walk. The body is walking. You become mindful of the prominent bodily sensation. Right? In the walking, the body is active, so you have more prominent sensations than the breath. Then again, in the sitting, you settle down, you close your eyes, simply observe what is prominent. Sometimes it is at your nostrils, sometimes it is in the belly. You pick the prominent sensation. Let's say you have your meals, you don't go and observe the breath. That's a choking hazard. Instead, you simply observe the eating process. That's the prominent sensation. When you brush your teeth, you observe those sensations. So that way, being mindful of your body, not the whole body, prominent sensations. Being mindful of your body is the whole path. Right? Everything else will happen. Everything else will be developed. All the other faculties will align when you do this. Right? Many people, their confusion is that they have too many things in their mind. They have too many teachings. And as a result, they do one thing today, then again they think that this doing other thing is good. They do it tomorrow. So their minds are confused. They don't know what the path is. Right? So simply knowing this single word, knowing this practice that we do every day or every week, and executing it repetitively is the path. That's all you have to do. Right? Time after time, you do the sitting, you do the walking, you do your daily mindfulness, and that's the whole path. There's nothing beyond. Let's say the Dhatu Manasikara. It'll come naturally at certain times when you do this practice. Sometimes the whole body is heated and you feel the heat. Sometimes you feel the body is like a rock. So these things come naturally in certain phases of the practice. If you go chase them, it's going to be a never-ending process. Right? So know this simple word and simply put this word into action. That's the idea. And that's how you can make real progress. Otherwise, like maybe mentioned earlier, it's a never-ending loop. You do this today, you do that tomorrow. Again, you feel like doing this. So it's a never-ending loop. But knowing this clearly and putting it into practice, you have one practice. Mindfulness of the body. That's the one practice. You do that one practice repetitively, and that's how you can attain Nibbana.
Much merits,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Okay.
So I'll take over.
Yeah, thank you, Panchani, and thank you, Bhante. Thank you to people who sent the reports as well. It is now time to end the session. So on behalf of the organizers, I thank Venerable Dhammakassala Thero for his continued guidance on this program. And also we can't forget the Chief Abbot of Nisaranavanaya, Venerable Udayiriyakama Dhammajiva Mahathero, whose idea was to initiate this program. May both accept these merits to improve your own practice as well. And thank you to everyone who's helping us, the organizers who are helping us to run this program every week, and the ones who are working really hard behind the scene and bringing this program to you every week. Thank you to all of you and everyone who has participated today and will be watching later on via our live stream or our recorded program as well. As usual, we will bring the program to you 1 p.m. Sri Lankan time. This time does not change. And we wish you all a happy and mindful week ahead. I will now end the program.